Day 4, November 2023. We are still here and we will move a bit more, kind of inviting you to stay with us. We could check in the very first moment and before all things that in general the criminal activity as criminal practices, the misuses of power go by the same offenders acting in a variety of crimes, hurting different victims. And sometimes those victims are interests or elements that got hurt in segments that has no excuse to do this. And of course that is illegal. Now we will observe that we could check that the electoral procedure will have two options as candidate A, for instance, the Republican, candidate B, the Democrats, and the new voters as the candidate new. Here we will observe now putting names in our situation, which is the X quoting mark, and here is the element Z that will be something balanced side to side if you'd like to do the conformance of things. These go in any areas. It means that if you have the relation here as debit and credit, for instance, the credit that I take is the same credit that I must give as payment, and it is unveiling, I would say, the notion that the debt also must be something like this. This is the relation debit and credit, quite clear since Italy, the Middle Age. But sometimes this relation has internal movements in that has the influence of the context, and will do the variance as value with the derivation of the credit, and the derivation of the credit can trend as something that will be a positive result or a negative result. But the most important thing is not consider if it's how the value as result, but the origin and source of this value. Because for instance, if you have the relation debit and credit, the credit you took is the debit you made. The debt you made will be paid as credit to solve the debt you took with someone. It's the idea as obligation. But the inner value, as for instance, you got associated as business, or who must pay the value with the organized crime, has a big money to do the insertion, and you set a discount police. We observe this on present time in all areas. The discount police indeed goes at this line here, changing, and will be something kind of just like the election. The new voters kind of can be rearranged, not totally, or will be something absurd. But if I have, let's suppose, 30 voters as Republicans, 20 voters as Democrats, and I will put a bit more, 40 as Democrats, 70, and then I will have 30 voters as new. I can rearrange this, for instance, transferring plus, and then I will have the result as modified. In the same way, the situation goes at the business. When you do the financial report as a statement to your investor, that sometimes push you to be profitable, but having the power, and we will observe, you will be forced to be associated with sometimes scams, or at least do not have enough reliability at the numbers you put at the show, right? Right. Which is the purpose and the object right now. It's the estimative is something that goes always before you set the criminal scam, because allow you to balance things during the criminal scam. Can be as electoral procedure, can be to present the result. In both cases, we will have a situation as A and B, different things, but with the element Z to approach both in the middle. Is this similar to something we did all those periods? Considering the difference of both with the approach goes by the concurrent interest as estimative, for instance, such a new way to achieve the institutional power. To achieve a new way, you need the new voters, or the discount police, or the evasive behavior, which is the gap, or the logical gap at the workflow you do. In the same way, this will be unveiled when you use the discretionary debt totally free, but discretionary do not imply totally free, but with a limit a bit more larger to do the decision about the application of the resources you do. The fixed debt goes like this, the discretionary debt goes like this, but you consider this an empty space, but indeed it's not. It's a space that you will fix this as fixed registry after do the decision as discretionary. But here, as you can observe, you have the inner movement as now the estimative. In the same way we could observe in the other models, but can be and will be caught because the discretionary do not imply freedom. We will observe here in the same way the expectation of people you harass and tease and stalk, for instance, at the public department, to drag them, even by fake record, as something concrete at the organized crime, or by record setting a misperception, goes by the estimative as records according with the interest to drag these people to the criminal scams. And you must do this, of course, having the not proper behavior, which is the estimative as how structured is the criminal activity or the parallel movement at your institution, that can be on your corporation, on your government, which has a period on it, and achieve the power by the democratic process to set and have raised the democratic system. And in both cases, corporations and governments affecting the state by the inner movement inside that will be on present time, as we can observe, do the balance of things by the interest, but this interest, as we could report at the diary, will always lead to the fake records. One more time, who do the records at your account, which is the accountability, as the very first record especially, knows the interest to do the not reliability under conformance and present this financial statement. In the same way, the judicial decision that has a market not covered anymore and having the misuse of power as oligarchy. And the way you got the power by the estimated interest you had the promise to sustain, indeed change the behavior of your state and organizations. and was qualified as corrupted and unveiled as criminal purpose by the interests as keep the parallel system ongoing. But as we told, there are no freedom, just a discretionary. As you can observe, this model here and our model are limited, but give a great notion that indeed the circumstances are all against the criminal system. And for sure we do not need this because the acts has no excuse. But we presented just to expose how the wild data attached and no portfolio under criminal interference of the institution and state criminality in Brazil, considering interest on it, must be now under a constraint and a judicial hearing, not only a judicial hearing, but also a defensive, as global defensive, hearing of the variables that are doing the records to expose the interest that they are covered by fake records. Have a nice Sunday.